Again, thank you for taking the time out to talk to me today, man. I really
Of
appreciate it.
course. Yeah, man.
Um, I always like to start off by asking, what was your earliest musical memory?
Oh shit. Um, it's so funny to like think about that because like I just got asked that recently too, and I was just like, that is like one of the most mind fucking questions. Like it's like, what was your first memory ever that you had, or what was your first memory of music that you ever had? And like, I can't lie, like when I was like probably 3 years old is when the first Mortal Kombat movie came out,
Oh,
and
yes.
I was so obsessed with that movie. Like I would recite every line. Like I used to make my mom and my dad play that for me, like all the time when I was like 3 years old. And my dad would come home and I'd like make him fight me and stuff. So like I'm gonna have to say the Mortal Kombat theme song. It was like the da da da
I
da da
remember.
da da
Yes.
da da
That's
Mortal Kombat.
yes. I have very clear memories of that too.
Dude.
And that wasn't like too big of a stretch for your dad to play for you because he was super into dance music anyways, right?
Yeah, my dad was always big into house music, and um, he was really big into trance back then too. So he was always playing stuff in the car, like subliminally, and like yeah, it was a fun thing. Like I remember like The Matrix too, and like when The Matrix came out, he would take us to the movies, and we watched The Matrix probably like snaking into the theaters like 15 times, like I swear. And like that was so much good music in The Matrix too.
No,
So
there
like
really was. Man. So, and your dad was also the first person to like bring you to a rave.
yeah.
That's, I mean, that's kind of remarkable to have like your parents not just like support what you do, but they actively encouraged you to go in this direction.
For
Um,
sure, for
what
sure.
was that like as a kid, like having somebody that was so into dance music that it like became a part of you?
Well, I would say like I didn't really respect it until he took me to my first rave. Like,
Mm,
I liked all like the Matrix and the Mortal Kombat movie music stuff, and that was fun. But like my brother was the first person to really introduce me into music because he was so big into playing the guitar, and he taught me
right.
how to play the guitar when I was 8. And I was really into like classic rock for a long time. So I used to think the stuff my dad listens to was like, oh, that's lame, like it's not cool. Like it's a weird because usually the dad listens to classic rock and like
Right.
the
That's what I was
kids
gonna
don't.
say.
Like it's like so it was like reverse, and my brother got me into that. And then it was like that big wave hit when NWA hit like in LA, and it was just like 2000s. It was like Eminem, Snoop Dogg, Dre, like it was all the West Coast like hip
Yeah.
hop, like Bone Thugs, and like we kind of like started getting more into hip hop and stuff. And like I was just like only listening to hip hop for a long time after that. And then yeah, it wasn't like until I turned 15 when my dad bought this DJ controller, which I still have, which is funny. Um,
Are you serious?
he bought this little M Audio controller,
Yeah.
and he started trying to use it himself, but he never really got around to it. It was just laying around, and I was like always very interested in trying to learn every instrument that I can. So I like
Right.
picked it up one day. I was like, Dad, what is this? And he was like, oh, this is like a DJ thing. And it's like, this? There's no like turntable. I always used to think DJs had to have like the turntables and stuff. And it
Right.
was like just this little 2-track controller that plugged into your computer, and it run the program Torque. And it was like this thing that was like, I don't know, like
Man,
before
that's a
Tractor.
throwback. That's a throwback.
It's super throwback. And I was just sitting there like playing around with it for a while. And then I had all my dad's like super housey old school tracks that it would be ripped. It would just be labeled like track 1 through 10. It wouldn't even have any labels. No, I didn't know any of the artists.
You
I
had
was
no
just
idea what you were playing.
no idea, but I was throwing it in, and then I was taking stuff like that my other family like I would take like the Black Eyed Peas track and then throw it in there and just start mixing the two together without really knowing what I was doing. I was like syncing the two, like taking the bass out of one because I thought it was like too bass heavy, and then like I started recording these mashups and like doing of these like old tracks that I didn't even know that was from Carl Cox back in the day, and then mixing them with like Black Eyed Peas and like all this other like poppy type of stuff that was like I don't know. It was like I wanted just stuff to like DJ for my friends and like for parties and stuff. So it was like very interesting.
I love that. I love that like your start in like producing music was so again like inspired by your dad. Like
Yeah,
out of
yeah.
nowhere you kind of like found that thing. How did that like transition into you like really getting into producing your own music?
It kind of started when I was recording myself playing the guitar, and I used to like sing and stuff, and try to like make like cool like classic rock stuff, and then
Yeah,
like got a little bit more into the emo shit, and like
of
that
course.
was a whole emo eighth grade year. It was just like 1 or 2 years where you just decided to like listen to Taking Back Sunday and like just like try to sing and play the guitar. So I downloaded Audacity, and
Yes.
then I think I got grounded or something. I did something bad, and my mom grounded me. And then my dad was like, "Here, let me put this piece of software on your computer." And he put FL Studio on my computer, and he just downloaded it and threw it on there. And it was like the trial run. He was like, "If you like it, then I'll buy it for you."
Wow.
So then I was just sitting there like playing around with it for so long. And then he bought it for me, and then like that kind of tied in with the little DJ controller too, because then I was starting to throw in the recordings I would do from Torque, and then throw it into FL Studio and try to chop them up and stuff, and like do weird things to it like that before I knew how to produce. But that was the kind of cool thing, is like, I was just sitting around on FL Studio like not knowing what I was doing at all, and making like what I didn't even know was house music. It was
Right.
just like clicking in things and like making weird beats and stuff. And you know
Experimentation stage. That fun before time when you have no idea what you're doing and you have no idea if it sounds good, but it's just like fuck it, I'm just gonna keep doing this shit.
I know, right? It's like just pure joy of just making weird sounds and like throwing them together, and like even though they don't make any sense. But
Yeah.
uh, it wasn't really till like the year after uh, I ended up getting in a huge fight with my mom, and like I was a very defiant person, and my dad and my mom are separated. So I was living in Texas at the time,
Right.
and when I turned 16, just I got kicked out of school. I was just on this very bad path.
Yeah.
I was hanging out with the wrong people, and my mom's just had it with me, and it was like basically to my dad, like, take him. Like,
Yeah.
just take him. I can't handle it anymore. So I moved to California, back to California where I was born, and literally just I was not on the right path even when I moved here. And it wasn't until my dad took me to EDC at the Coliseum. So, I was starting to get more into house music with all the DJing and the producing
Right.
and stuff. And he was like, "Oh, you're 16 this year. You're finally able to go to a rave." And that was like back then when you were able to go to EDC when you were
Yeah, it was like, was
16.
it 16 plus? Yeah, it was 16 plus back then.
Yeah, so it was 2010. I remember that was the last year too that they ever made it 16 and up, because I
That
think
was
like
the
a
year.
14-year-old got in, and then she unfortunately passed away, and it was like LA shut down EDC that year. But
That was the crazy year. That was the year when all the fences came down.
that's the year when everyone stormed the fences, and I think it
Yeah,
was during Laid Back Luke or
it
something. And
was. Yeah.
yeah. And people got trampled and stuff, and that
Yeah,
was
no, that was a crazy year that was like a transitional year for dance music, like in general. Like that was like we almost thought we were gonna lose it again. Like
yeah.
like in the late 90s. We're like, is it all going away again? And then
Yeah,
it kind of came back raging after that. But yeah, that was a crazy year.
it
That was a
was
crazy year
crazy.
for you to go as a 16-year-old. Like you went with like at like one of the most iconic EDCs ever. Like what changed it? What was that experience like as a 16-year-old, like walking into your first rave?
Oh man. I mean, like, I've never even seen, being from Texas, the party scene is a lot different. It's like high school football, college football, all
Right.
centered around the NFL or NBA. Like, it's all sports oriented. So all the parties you went to were like tailgates and stuff. So like,
Right.
as a 16-year-old moving to California, being a little bit older, and like, I was drinking a little bit at 16, like
Right.
experimenting with shit, and like just walking into that, like it reminded me of like, I don't know, just like a whole different world. It was like you're legitimately walking into a carnival, but like with the nicest people ever and the coolest
Yeah.
music ever, and like all these crazy lights and people, like not all these girls not wearing any clothes. And it was just like, I was like, there's no way this is real. Like it felt like a dream when you were walking in, and
Yeah.
like just to be there with my dad, but not only my dad, but my aunt and my uncle were there, and like all of their friends. So like that I've known my whole life. So it was like we had this crew of people I was with. I felt safe. I didn't feel like I was, scared at all. And it was just like this cool thing where it was like I get to do this with my family. And I had all my other friends that bought tickets, and they all rode together, and they were doing all sorts of crazy stuff. And like
Right.
I just remember that moment was like, do I leave my family and to go hang out with my friends, or do I kick it and hang out with my family? And like
Yeah.
for some reason I just wasn't feeling it. I didn't even want to hang out with my friends. I was like, my family's so cool. I just want to hang out with you guys.
That's so cool. That's so awesome that you like got like you had that like crossroads moment. And as a 16-year-old, that's kind of a big deal to like make that decision to be like, no, I'm gonna stay with my family this time. My friends are they can go do their own thing. That's fucking cool.
Yeah.
What what changed for you that day? Like what was so impactful? Like you've said that day kind of changed your life. Like
Mhm.
what was the one thing that you can kind of point to that was like this is what I want to do. Like I want to go after this shit.
It was specifically like certain people's sets and like music that I got introduced to,
Yeah.
as well as like I like just heard like ghosts and stuff from Dead Mouse, and I was like, oh, okay, that's the dude with the mouse helmet or whatever. But like
Yeah.
when I actually saw him play after Cascade, and they did like Move for Me and like all these records that were just like the 4 a.m. like the like, oh my god, it was just like this whole nother world opened up to me of like all of this music that I've never heard. And I was like just sitting there, and I might have been a little buzzed or something, but I'm just sitting there and I'm looking, and I'm like, I look at my dad, and it was specifically during Dead Mouse's set, and I was like, this is what I want to do, Dad. Like I want to be that person on the stage. Like it's like the craziest energy. And like I just like had this epiphany of like, as much as I love playing the guitar, and I always know I wanted to do something with music, I was like,
Yeah.
this is like calling to me. I really feel like these are my people. This is like the energy just feels, and it still gives me the chills. Like it's like talking about it, it's crazy. It's like it was definitely a life-changing moment. It was like him, Fetty Legrand that night, Swedish House Mafia, Cascade, and then the next day it was like Wolfgang Gardner and Laidback Luke and like Afrojack and stuff like that. It was like all of this music that I got introduced to, it just inspired me so much. And like when I went home after that festival, I didn't do anything except for like lock myself in my room with FL Studio and the computer, and just like every like few hours, like, Dad, come in here and check this out, like check this out. And he was always like, oh man, that's so awesome. And he was just so supportive about it that it really like gave me the confidence to just keep going and going.
I love that. I love that. I love that like you have not just that you have this like a beautiful story about going to rave for the first time and being inspired so much, but also that your like dad has always been there for you to like say, "Hey, keep doing this. Like I like this for you." That's like
Yeah.
really special because so many people start as a deficit with parents who don't want them to go into the arts. And
Right,
it's
right.
like massively important that we have artists like, that makes everybody happy. Like to have that kind of encouragement is it's like a blessing, no?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like my dad is 100% Filipino,
Yeah.
came from the Philippines when he was like 8 or 9. His parents, everyone in Asia, that was born in Asia, all their parents want you to be lawyer, doctor,
Right.
that type of shit. Like go to college, like they didn't even let my dad have a girlfriend at all in high school, which is like, it's just like, it goes to show you, like, I guess he really wanted for me what he did, the opportunities that he didn't have. And like, as successful as my dad is, like, I feel like, a big part of his success were just following what his parents wanted. And he wanted to give me that freedom to express myself.
That's so great. That's so
Yeah.
great. And then after EDC, did you like, figure your whole school self out and like start like get on the right path? Because I know you like you ended up going to production school after that.
Mhm.
So you must have at least figured out how to get on the right path to finish high school, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, like, it was just kind of more like when I was 16, I was a junior because I'm like a year behind everybody.
Yeah. Okay.
So I graduated when I was 17 the next year. And the next year, when I started to enroll my senior year, I noticed there was a class offered to only seniors, and it was called Music Tech. So
Yes.
then that was my first period was music tech, and it was with my algebra 2 teacher. His name was Mr. Kumar, and he also taught music tech, and he basically made everyone learn Logic, and they had a bunch of Macs set up in a room, keyboard, little MIDI keyboards, little stations, and that was like the first time I actually got to like touch like equipment that was like properly set up, and that wasn't like just like me winging it. I was like learning a whole new program, collaborating and hanging out with my friends, and like we would just go in first period and just go in and jam. And since I already made music before, I got to hit it off really big with my music teacher, and he would like give me like this special room, and like he was like so supportive of my music too because I was like posting him to blogs, and he was like putting him up on the school board and like all this stuff. So it was like it was really cool to be able to do music tech, but um, he was the person that said, you know, Dillon is great of an artist as you are, you're still gonna have to make money
Right.
after you get out of like what are you gonna do? What are you gonna go to school for? And you know, we're learning like the very basics of audio engineering. So I was like, that's a good intro. Like I need to get better at tuning the sounds and making everything sound better.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll just go to audio engineering school. And then that was how it really connected. And when I graduated, I got into Musicians Institute in the audio engineering program.
Right. And you did that and you graduated and then you work for a major label, or I mean I say work.
Yeah,
You were an intern for a major label for a little bit,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Can you talk about that experience and like that was even like transformational period for you as well, right?
That was for sure. So I went throughout. I did the 2 year course at Musicians Institute to get my degree in audio engineering, and it was the last semester of Musicians Institute, and you had to do an internship.
Yeah.
So I applied everywhere to internships, literally to every single studio, and I wasn't getting any response or whatever. So I actually went, which was right down the street from where I was living. I was living right next to Musicians Institute, and Atlantic Records was on Cahuenga down the street. So I remember walking in and being so excited and holding my resume with all of the stuff and all my accolades, and I was top of my class and like kind of schmoozed my way into getting into talking to the right person at the right time. And
Yeah.
they said, yeah, like you can do the internship at Atlantic Records, and that was a 6 month internship. It was maybe like the 5th month into the internship when I realized being an intern is really all just getting coffees for artists that are there. So
Yeah.
like I never got to touch one piece of equipment,
Uh,
go into any studio, sit on any sessions whatsoever. Like I basically was able to go and run errands for everybody and get coffees for everyone. And you know, I was like complaining to my teachers like I haven't learned anything at this internship. I just like keep getting coffees for everyone. And um, you know, I think it was that moment that was the first sign that I realized like the kind of work that I was getting into was still that 9 to 5. It was still suppressing to be to like the artist that I actually am. It was
right.
still like all of this work and stuff, but for other people's music. And like, you know, I was always making beats on the back end too. Like I was still
Right.
making house music for all my friends, DJing parties for everybody at MI. And like, I think it was like the internship at the very end of it when I realized, you know, half the people that are working in the studio, uh, you know, just got in through somebody that they knew, or it was like, you know, none of the work that I've done and worked so hard for would actually pay off being in this setting, you know, like,
Right, 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 right. So that like that realization is kind of huge for every artist, and it takes a lot of like belief in yourself and like a huge amount of risk to be like there could be some stability in this thing,
mhm,
but I'm gonna go off and do the thing that's completely unstable
mhm.
because I really love doing it, and I'm gonna see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where do you get the courage to do something like that?
Um, I would have to say, it was right before my grandma passed away, and
Mm,
she always wanted me to get a degree and go to college and that kind of stuff. And like, I was super close to my grandma, and we call her Lola in Tagalog in Filipino. So
yeah.
uh, after I graduated from MI, it was really like towards the end of her life where we were talking, and I was just saying like, I don't know if I'm gonna be happy doing this, and she kind of gave me the thumbs up of like, you know, whatever it is that you want, go do what you want to do. And at that time too, my buddy and I were DJing at this club um, in Orange County called Merge, and one of the DJs there and the guy that throws Merge is his name is Sean Blakey, and he told us about Icon Collective.
I know
So that
Sean.
was like
Yeah.
how it all kind of tied in for me. I was like, wait, I don't think I'm like done. Like I just don't want to go like in working. Like I want to pursue more of my education. I want to learn how to be more of an artist, and
Right.
how there was this school that no one's ever heard of before. There was nothing really like it back then, and like that's when I started going Icon Collective.
Nice. That's so awesome that you were able to like find a place for yourself.
Yeah.
Um, I want to kind of like take a step back and talk about like your background as a live as a vocalist and as a person who plays instruments.
Okay.
Um, how does that like play a part in your music today?
Oh man, I think it's really what makes me the kind of artist that I am, because when I'm in the studio, it's more of a jam kind of vibe. Like I don't really like to sit on the computer and click, or like sit down like I am right now. I'm always
Yeah.
standing and like thinking and walking around, and like playing every other instrument. Like I've played the drums, the bass, the guitar, and I've done some vocal stuff in my life. And like,
Yeah.
I really feel like that helps me be more of a producer. Being an artist and being a producer is also this separate sort
Oh,
of thing
absolutely.
where it's
Yeah.
like, you have your musicians, but as a producer, you're making all these musicians work together.
Right.
But in our world, like you are the musician for every instrument. So
Right.
it's like it's cool because I'm none of the stuff that I do is quantized or like locked into the grid. It's more just I'll play the same bass line for 30 minutes straight, just with my eyes closed, until you really get that one take, and you could only be using like 4 bars of that 30 minutes, and then that's what makes the whole song special. Now I don't have to add all this other stuff in it, because like I've really locked in this groove that was hypnotic to me, and it was like, it's the very intricate piece, even though it's so simple.
Right. I love that idea of like producing that way, like of really getting into the moment because you're kind of putting yourself on the dance floor. You're like, in essence, you're like saying, "How am I going to make people feel this thing that I'm feeling?"
Hmm.
And you're like really putting that into the music. I love that's like part of your process.
For sure. I mean, if you're not like standing up and like jamming to the song while you're making it, it doesn't really like translate the same way. It's like I don't understand how people could sit there and like really just like, click stuff in, and then like expect like it to light the dance floor up, because it's like, like it's got to make you move in that way first, for
Yeah, I
sure.
mean, it's dance music, man. If you're not dancing in your chair while or getting up and dancing at least once during the session, then it ain't working.
Oh, for sure. And it's like
um,
you can't be afraid to make the accident, like the some of the best parts of the song are little happy accidents that happen. Like I tweaked a knob off time, and it gave it this weird resonant twang, and like, it was like off time and it sounded weird, but then that hiccup became like the new groove, and then now you looped that section and that
right.
became the hook, and then that's what made the whole song.
I love it, that creative process. It's almost like going back to that time when you were like had no idea what you were doing, but now that you know what you're doing, you know to pay attention to the happy accidents as opposed to being like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing anymore.
Right.
Um, I want to talk about Insomniac too, because your first party was an Insomniac party,
Uh-huh.
and that's where I came across you for the first time. And
Hmm.
also, you made your way back to Insomniac with like releases on the record label, but you
Hmm.
also played at EDC in 2019.
Yeah.
Um, and on the Stereo Bloom stage, which is like my favorite stage. I love
Yeah.
it's like, I love the big stages, but Stereo Bloom is just like kind of like a personal one for me, just because it's like all Insomniac records. and it's
Mm,
like kind of a smaller stage and more tight knit, but it's still huge. What was it
yeah.
like playing? What was it like getting up on stage for the first time in front of all those people at the show that you went to for the first time as a raver?
I mean, it just all came back full circle, you know, and it literally there's no better feeling in the world to like when you set out. That was the goal since day one. I was like, I'm going to play at EDC, and I wrote it on my mirror when I was 16, and like always in the back of my head every single time, and I didn't get discouraged, you know, like it was like working my way up to that. And doing EDC 2019 was probably the most rewarding part of my entire career, because like bringing my dad back to EDC while I'm playing at Stereo Bloom for like there was at least 10,000 people at the stage because Cascade got closed from the wind,
Oh,
Get Real
right.
got closed from the wind. There was like a wind situation. I was like, please God, like if there was ever a moment to just give me a solid like like please don't close down the Stereo Bloom. And it didn't close down. And we just had the best time of my life. It was like 10,000 people. We started playing at 4 a.m. We played like the last set, or it was like 5 a.m. And just, you know, from literally it being pitch black dark with all the lights to the sun coming up. And it was like, you know,
What an epic moment, man.
yeah,
Like,
you can't even
what
describe the way
you
that I
can't.
felt.
Yeah, that's glorious.
Yeah,
That
it
is fucking
was.
glorious. And your dad was there too.
Yeah, you know, afterwards we were like tearing up, and we had a good cry, and it was just like, you know, life isn't so bad, you know.
No, no, not at all. I mean, that's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome that like you get to stand in front of people and do this for a living. That's an amazing thing. And after all of these years, like it feels like you were born into a situation that you were being groomed for this for like your entire life. Like you were being set up to
Yeah,
get there
yeah,
eventually.
for sure, for sure.
Um, so I have two more things. The first one is the last question, but then after that, we're gonna do this thing like I call a speed round, where I'm gonna ask you like
Okay,
a series of like really quick fire. Some of them are silly questions, and then
okay,
you just answer as fast as possible. But before I get to that,
okay.
I always like to end by asking what excites you about the future of dance music.
Oh, wow. I think what excites me about the future of dance music is that we're starting to experiment more with the live aspect of it, and it just being like, okay, like there's only so much you can do with a pair of CDJs or DJ equipment, but having that and adding on to it, like I love to see Carl Cox's new live set where he is there. There's only a DJ mixer. There's no tables, but
Yeah,
there's a synth plugged in, and there's uh, you know, this drum machine that's plugged in, and it's all this gear that you're collecting. So now we're going back into like the band kind of feel where it was like, you know, you have to tour with all of your equipment, and you're bringing all of your lights, and you're bringing your visuals, and like we're going back to the real rock and roll days of like it
yeah,
being like showmanship, like who can show each other up on stage. And like,
yeah.
you know, that's really where we're starting to work on, like just jamming live and bringing a synth, plugging it in while you're playing, and just kind of testing it out. Or like, I really love what Kink is doing, dude. Kink is just,
Yeah.
oh my god, like, you know,
Incredible.
yeah.
Have you seen Jamie Jones's like new thing, Opus One?
Uh-uh.
So it's Jamie Jones on synths, and there's another woman who does like who also does synths and drums, and then they have a full orchestra on stage, and
Oh my god.
they're basically performing all of Jamie Jones's music, but with the full orchestra and the synths and drum machines like all on stage, and plus they have other songs that they've created just for this thing.
Oh my god. See,
Yeah,
that's the future of dance music right there.
yeah, I want to dance to that.
Yeah. Jamie Jones on synths, like, come on.
Yeah, right. It looks incredible. Like they're actually doing a show. They're premiering it for the first time in the U.S. in New York tomorrow. So like, I have a
Oh,
friend that's going. It's just like it looks so amazing. Like to see like dance music like performed that way, that's
yeah.
next level shit, man.
That it for sure. It's like then it's like you're getting more people involved of like, you know, when you start working with real musicians and like you're orchestrating it all together, then like, you know, you don't even necessarily need to be the front man. You know, you're just the
No,
guy like holding the little, you
yeah,
know, you're the
you just
orchestrator.
become part of it.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. All right, so are you ready for a speed round?
Let's do it.
All right. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Biggie or Tupac?
Oh, Biggie.
Nice. Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Ramen or pho?
Ramen.
Pizza or sandwiches?
Pizza sandwich.
Yes, you're the second person to do that. Intimate club or festival?
Oh, I love them for both reasons, but I will say intimate club.
All right. Rave or club?
Rave for sure.
No or beach?
Beach.
Lake or ocean?
Ocean.
All right. If you could have one superpower, would you choose flight or invisibility?
I would probably choose flight, so I don't have to buy any more plane tickets.
There you go. Nice answer. Analog or digital?
Analog.
House or techno?
House.
Would you rather swim in a pool full of Nutella or a pool full of maple syrup?
Nutella.
It's going to be a lot harder than maple syrup, but they both are going to just eat it the whole way. Drum and bass or trap?
Drum and bass.
Pop or hip hop?
Hip hop.
Eric Prydz or Carl Cox?
Oh my God! Why would you do that to me?
Because I know that you're a huge fan of Eric Prydz. I know what I'm doing here, man.
Oh man! Oh God! Sorry, but I guess Carl Cox.
All right.
Nostalgic reasons.
I won't tell Eric Prydz.
Yeah. Please don't.
Carl Cox or Chris Lake?
Ooh.
Another tough one.
Ooh. This is Carl Cox for sure.
All right. Flip flops or shoes?
Shoes.
Pineapple on pizza?
Yes.
Finish this sentence. Before I die, I want to.
Before I die, I want to raise a successful family, man.
Nice answer. Beautiful. I love that. Your favorite character on The Office?
Ooh. Dwight.
Beautiful. And last question. Guilty pleasure TV show?
Probably Hell's Kitchen.
Oh, yes. Yes. I love watching Gordon Ramsay ream people.
I can't stop watching it. Like I got so into cooking, and it was just like, I don't know. This Gordon's just so satisfying to watch.
He really is. He really is. And let's be honest, the food looks incredible all the time.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure. Well, thank you again so much for taking the time out to talk to us today. We really appreciate it.
Alex, you're the homie, bro. Anytime.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And we'll be talking to you soon.
Yeah, brother.
All right. Peace.
Peace, bro.
Peace.